Hi, and welcome to the Access Direct Opening Bell, your essential pre-market podcast. In just minutes, get key global updates, overnight trends, and market-moving factors that set the tone for the day. Whether you're a seasoned trader or just someone tracking the markets, this is your go-to briefing to stay ahead at all times. So let's dive straight in. Good morning on a Thursday, and we will start with US stocks, which rose yesterday as President Trump denied that he was looking to fire Fed Chair Powell. The S&P 500 finished 0.3% up after being about 0.7% lower earlier, while the Nasdaq 100 rose 0.1% to a new record. Big banks have had a good earnings season so far, and that's kept investors in risk-on mode. In related markets, the VIX fell 1.3%. The dollar index was volatile, which saw it end its 8-day winning run, while the US 10-year Treasury yield was little changed, near 4.45%. Elsewhere, gold rose 0.7% on the Trump-Powell saga, while oil prices climbed 0.6%, snapping a 3-day drop as inventories fell. At home, the rupee dropped with most of its Asian peers as expectations of a rate cut from the Fed receded somewhat after the initial excitement. The currency ended the day at 85.94, primarily due to dollar strength. Coming to stocks, and the Nifty ended 16 points higher at 25,212. The India VIX declined 2.1% to settle at 11.2. Mid-caps and small-caps ended flat. Market breadth for the NSE 500 members was more or less balanced. 9 of the 12 NSE sectors gained, led by PSU banks and media, which rose 1.8% and 1.3% respectively. The best and worst performers on the Nifty were Mahindra & Mahindra, which gained 2.2%, and Shriram Finance, which fell 2.4%. Technically speaking, yesterday's candle shows a recovery from the day's lows with a long lower shadow, but a close about 25,245, followed by another about 25,340 is needed for bulls to gain the upper hand and target the 25,550 area. Support remains at 25,000. Meanwhile, provisional data showed that foreigners withdrew 1,860 crores yesterday. The month-to-date outflow has jumped to nearly 13,600 crores. On to derivatives, and the Nifty's put-call ratio went from 0.88 to 0.92, while the Bank Nifty's moved from 0.89 to 0.92. More puts were added compared with calls, and implied volatility rose 4 basis points. So the sentiment from an options standpoint at the close was light bearish. For options expiring today, resistance sits in the 25,300 to 500 zone, while critical support remains between 25,000 and 25,100. Elsewhere, 1% out of the money call volatility fell more than similar distance put volatility, and that means volatility traders remain bearish. Speaking net index options activity, foreigners and proprietary traders were bearish, while retail investors were bullish. Elsewhere, foreigners' net short positioning in index futures rose by 4,000 contracts to 125,000 contracts. Please note that bearish bets have risen for 13 straight days through yesterday. Looking forward to the day, the GIFT Nifty opened 38 points up. Asian markets were largely higher, while US index futures were down about 0.1%. Coming to stocks, Glaxo, IDFC, First Bank, and SBI Cards were at horizontal support, while Godrej Properties and Sun TV were at horizontal resistance. Canfin Homes and Apollo Tyres were at trendline support, while Kaplan Point and Escorts were at trendline resistance. Talking breadth, 77%, 89%, and 67% of stocks in the NSE 500 were above their 50, 100, and 200-day averages. Initial jobless claims and retail sales numbers will be released from the US later today. That is a wrap on the day's podcast. Please note that this podcast serves solely for informational purposes and should not be considered financial advice of any kind. For a comprehensive disclaimer, please visit our website. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow at the same hour. Have a good day.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.